Our Father in heaven, we are so grateful for this day and for this opportunity we have to celebrate the life of Darnell Hancock. We're so grateful for him and for his life and for what he's taught us. We're grateful for the great son, brother, father, grandfather, and friend that he has been to all of us. We're so grateful for this time we have to celebrate his life and be able to remember those things that are so wonderful. We ask you to please bless those that are speaking or taking a part of the program, that they will be able to do so with thy spirit, be able to share those things that come from their heart. We're grateful for the gospel in our lives and what it teaches us, and knowing that we will see our dad again. We're so grateful for him. Please bless him as well, as he is not with us anymore. Please bless us this day, that we will have thy spirit and with us. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I'd like to thank Brother Hancock for his prayer. Before we get going here, I just wanted to share a story about Darnell that I knew, that I learned about. Well, it's some 30 plus years ago. I used to go for walks through the neighborhood to the south of our house, which was not in our ward, so I didn't really know anybody there. So I was walking one day and I came to a house that had a beautiful black Harley Davidson sitting on the sidewalk. And it had it had a for sale sign in it. I thought, wow, I was a wannabe biker, and I thought, I've got to check this out. So I walked up to the bike and noticed there was a gentleman sitting on his lawn chair right next in the garage there. And so I introduced myself, and he told me his name was Darnell. And we talked motorcycles for a few minutes, and then we visited, and I said, well, I better get going. He said, well, why don't you just take it for a spin? I said, I knew I wasn't up to that, so I thanked him and went on my way. But every time I saw Darnell after that, it always reminded me of his motorcycle and what a good man he was to me. I'll now announce the program. We'll have a life sketch by Ryan Schoonover, a granddaughter. We'll have a musical number by Rhea Jean Hancock, Darnell's wife, and Craig Hancock, a son. It will be Where No One Stands Alone. And then there will be some tributes by his children: Clark Hancock, Lorraine Allen, Kirk Hancock, Kelly Hancock, Leanne Wood, and Craig Hancock. And we'll go up to this point.
Darnell Hancock, my grandpa, passed away peacefully at his home in Spanish Fork on July 9th, 2026. Are there Kleenexes up here?
Right to your right.
Just need to make sure. Surrounded by his wife of 70 years this December, and his 6 children, which equals 45 grandchildren and 24 great-grandchildren. He was 92 years old. Darnell graduated from Spanish Fork High School, class of 1952, and went on to learn auto body and restoration. He has a Chevy truck, 1995 Chevy truck, in his garage right now that looks like it was driven off the lot last week. You did not climb in the bed of Grandpa's truck sideways over the wheel. You just didn't do it. I don't have a lot of childhood memories, but I do remember that. He could be stern, but he was always kind. He never made me feel scared over a mistake or stupid for asking a question. He was an amazing teacher. He taught me all the things I can still remember about cars. A good day with him back then was driving my pre-loved Honda Civic, the cucky car, over because it needed new brake pads. Then we would get in the little black truck to go fill our mugs with Pepsi at the gas station and then run to the auto parts store. He drove so slow. And the windows were always down. And once, when I told him I got a speeding ticket, I'm pretty sure he shook his finger at me and said in his stern voice, "There's not anywhere you've got to be in that big of a hurry. Wherever you're going, it will be there when you get there." After that, I put a little 2x3 picture of him in the dash of my car. And while most girls my age probably had pictures of their boyfriends, I had a picture of my grandpa. So back to 1952, he finished high school and he went on to work for Geneva Steel and also the Spanish Fork feed store. The owners of the feed store, the Carlsons, had a turkey farm that Darnell started working at. One day he drove out to the farm and carefully parked his newly restored 1937 Chevy Coupe a great distance away from everything. Imagine the look on his face when walking back and seeing a dozen or so fat velociraptors and their talons standing all over his beautiful car. He sold the car. And he said turkeys are the dumbest animals he's ever seen. Darnell meets Rhea Jean. In 1954, these two, they attended a wedding reception. He was invited by the groom and she by the bride. Rhea Jean caught Darnell's eye as she was making her exit for the night. Like in the fairy tales, in an effort to meet her, he chased after her, trying to find a way to conveniently bump into her. But he couldn't find her. The next day, he went out driving around in his black Mercury convertible, hoping to see her, and he did. She was walking with her sister, and he asked if they needed a ride. While Darnell was driving, he managed to run the only red light in town, up on 4th North, right next to the police station. Officer Ed Boyack pulled him over and gave him a warning. It was no big deal, except that was the beginning of everything. Grandma said he was the best driver, and she never felt unsafe with him. He was drafted into the Army in 1956, leaving in the fall for basic training in Tacoma, Washington. He returned home 3 months later and married his sweetheart, Rhea Jean Johnson, in the Manti Temple on December 27th, 1956. He would then leave his bride in Spanish Fort to finish her high school education while he was transferred to the Fort Bliss Army Base in south central New Mexico. A few more months and he would reunite with Grandma, attend her high school graduation, and head back to New Mexico together this time. After 16 months, Darnell fulfilled his military duty, and he and Rhea Jean returned home again, this time to stay. They bought a house, started their family, and would live in Spanish Fork for the rest of his life. They bought a camping trailer, and over the years, going to Bryce Canyon, Grandpa's favorite, Yellowstone, and all the other beautiful places in Utah became a tradition. In 1973, Darnell and several of his friends decided to build their own ski boats. And from then on, boating at Lake Powell became the new family favorite vacation destination. Darnell was a stickler about safety, and he went out of his way to explain the risks. He knew how dangerous it could be and was hypervigilant about making sure everyone was safe. Plenty of times the boats would break down, but they never had any injuries in all their years on the lake. Grandpa always had a dream to own a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Eventually, he got the one he always wanted, and it was magnificent. But by the time he got it, he felt he had waited too long, and he didn't feel safe driving it, especially with Grandma on the back. So he put it up for sale. I went over and took pictures of the bike for him and got them printed. And I noticed they're out on the table. He still hasn't framed. And that became a really early life lesson for me, that not to wait too long. Life takes unexpected turns, and we don't always have the time that we think we have. Grandpa worked for Hercules Aerospace in Magna, doing testing and method development, retiring after working for 32 years. He liked to sit out in his lawn chair, watch the activity and the traffic on Canyon Drive. He earned the title of the neighborhood watch by even the youngest kids on the block. And if the kids didn't see him out in his chair, they would ask, "Where's Darnell?" Grandma and Grandpa were members of the Old Time Fiddlers Association, where he was elected and accepted a 2-year term as president. He took that calling very seriously. He also learned how to play the mandolin by using cassette tapes he bought from an out-of-state teacher they would send them back and forth. Darnell Kent Hancock was a good man and a gentleman. He taught his kids to work hard and take care of the things that they had. He kept everything he could in good repair. And he also kept an old photo of Grandma in his wallet. So because of him, I'm going to try to keep a couple chairs out on my porch and a fridge stocked with Pepsi And I'm going to go outside and wave at the neighbors and see the kids riding their bikes. I might even watch a sunrise. And it will all be because I'm thinking of him. I say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Once I stood in the night with my head bowed low in the darkness as black as the sea. But my heart was afraid, and I cried, oh Lord, don't hide your face from me. Hold my hand all the way, every hour, every day, from here to the great unknown. Take my hand, let me stand where no one stands alone. Like a king, I could live in a palace so tall, with great riches to call my own. But I don't know a thing in this whole wide world that's worse than being alone. Hold my hand all the way, every hour, every day, from here to the great unknown. Take my hand, let me stand where no one stands alone. Take my hand, let me stand where no one stands alone.
Tell him about this. Not doing it.
That was so great. That was amazing. Well, we're not going to sing, so don't worry.
Yeah.
What we wanted to say first was thank you so much to all of you for who you are, for being friends with Dad and Mom, the support, and it's trickled down to us. Everybody here has had a part. We love you and thank you for coming. Before I give this to Lorraine, I want to say we also want everybody to know that we love our parents very much. We do, all of us. There's nothing less than 100% here. We love Dad so much and Mom so much. And we want to make you proud. So we're going to talk about that now. And here we go.
Well, our dad taught us how to work hard, and he always said, if you have a job to do, even if it's hard, just get it done and don't complain about it. So we're not going to complain about having to give these talks today, it's privilege. He taught us to be thrifty and frugal and use the things that we had and to take care of the things that we had. He could repair and fix anything and make it last almost forever. He reminded us to turn out the lights when we left a room, and he said to me at least once, I remember years, you be fair with me and I'll be fair with you. He never grounded us. It was not his style. And as he got older, and he would need to come in the house to have a rest, that really bothered him a lot. He did not go into old age gracefully. And I would remind him that he was old now, and it really was okay to come in the middle of the day and have a little rest before he went back out to finish what he was doing.
Yeah, one of the projects he helped me with when he was about 70 years old, I decided I had to add 4 more rooms to my house for my wife to make me move. And so that summer, Dad came up like Thursday, Friday, Saturday for several weeks during that hot summer, and we learned how to build those 4 rooms, but we didn't know how when we started. And incidentally, my wife kept him stocked with Pepsi and drank about a case a day. It was really hot. And we got through that. She would come out and find us under the tree having a break, reading a book I had on framing. So we figured out what to do with the next wall we had. That turned out very well, and Dad's help was very instrumental.
I think we learned enough that we probably could have built a house. In my years, my father-in-law was a general contractor, and it allowed me an opportunity to work side jobs, which was roofing houses. So I did all my father-in-law's homes, and Dad knew that, and we were doing one right down here by the cemetery. He came down, it was a cold morning, and as long as I got him perched on the roof, he was fine. He would just cut shingles for me and throw them at me. And he stayed there all day with me. And then he helped run some of my own roofing on my house.
I'm going to refer to my notes. 24 years ago, when I was pregnant with Landon, Dad helped me finish our basement. I was expecting baby number 4 at that time, and we needed more space for the kids. Together, Dad and I, not even Kelly, we made a plan every morning, and he would arrive at 9 a.m. We made a schedule for the day. We made many trips to Home Depot in Linden, because it was in Linden, not in Provo then. Every night when we wrapped up the day's work, he would involve Kelly, and he would give us our assignments to be ready for the next morning. We had to sweep up the pile of dust or organize the boards or whatever, but we had a plan every day. He taught me to measure twice and cut once, but we measured more than twice. He taught me how to read a tape measure. I would say, it's the first mark in between half and 3/4. And he would say, we aren't building a piano. And he said that to all of us, but we know that we could build a piano. It's the only thing we haven't done. It's safe to say that I have the straightest walls in all of Utah County. He taught the boys to work, and he taught his girls to work. He was always proud that he had girls who could do anything the boys could do. He taught us to do our own repairs, which you'll hear that a lot, but he would say, why do you want to pay someone else for something you can do yourself? That is a blessing and a curse, because we think we can do everything.
You get the idea that he was always there. He was always there. We moved to St. George in 1990, and a couple years later, we purchased our first home, and we decided we would lay the sod in front of the back the last day of June, and you know how hot it is. It was over 105, and guess who was there the whole time? Dad was there the whole time. It's probably the hottest weather he's been in, but he stayed out there all day. Tough guy, for sure.
Yeah, my story goes with that. I have so many stories way back, when I was younger. But this story is recently when he was about 80 years old, and I was able to. We have some indoor tennis courts, and they get washed often. And what they would do is they would go in and spray down the courts, and then we would go in and have to squeegee every inch of it because it wouldn't dry for a week if we didn't do that. So who was there? I would tell my dad I was down there squeegee, and he was down there with, and it's hot. I don't know, a lot of time during the year, many times during the year, and it was hot, and he was there. He taught us to work hard, but then at that moment he was showing me that he wasn't just teaching me to work hard. He was going to be there, right there with me, showing me that this is how you do it. This is how you're going to work hard and endure. And he was tough all the way till 80 years old. And I decided I better stop inviting him to come and help me. But he would come every time. So he was always there with us, showing us how to work hard.
Woody, it's not cold in here anymore. Okay, some of you might remember. Here we go. Some of you may remember the show years ago, MASH. Okay, it was the Army show set in the Korean War. One of the main characters, Hawkeye, was having nightmares. And so he would get up and sleepwalk. And one of the scenes is he's down on the ground and he's playing marbles, and Radar, who was the company clerk or something, come up and see what he was doing. And Hawkeye says, oh, hey, Stinky. And Radar says, hey, that's a name that could stick with a fella. So one day, we were sitting around the table trying to come up with nicknames for us. And somebody said to me, Hobo. Vicky, where are you? One of our Lake Powell friends came in just today and said, which one's Hobo? And Mom said, my impression of this was Dad listened to Charlie Pride, the old country, and there was a song that he did that I thought was about a hobo. It was not. But Mom clarified that and said, no, they were just coming up with names. One of you called me Hobo, and I cried. I was probably 15. I don't know. And so a few of us are lucky enough, I guess you want to call it that, to get nicknames. And shortly after that, it's somehow been shortened to Ho. So some of you out there know that my name is Ho. I introduced myself today as Kelly, but I hear Hope a lot. So the last time Dad always called me on my mission, I'd get letters, Dear Ho, and stuff like that. And so I hold that dear because that was just Dad's thing for us. The last time I heard it from him was just a few days before he passed. We went over and, Clark's even got it on his phone. And even Clark's kids call me Uncle Ho. So, but Dad, just the last couple of weeks, I walked in to see him, and I leaned down and said hi, and he said, in his kind, loving way, pointing to the chair over there, and he said, "Sit down, Hope."
I think it was in 1974. There was a pretty popular show on TV, and I think it was one of Dad's favorite shows. I don't know for sure, but I watched it with him, and it was called The $6 Million Man. I don't know if you remember that show. But short, the $6 Million Man was called The Bionic Man. And I don't know how, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, and I could not say bionic, so I would say Bonok. And so my dad started calling me Bonok for a little while, and then it got shortened to Bono. So that was my nickname and that's how that came about, but that was my nickname for many, many years. I would say up until I was about my last teenage year, probably. But 10 years later, I don't know what the time frame was, but we were over roofing Kelly and Leanne's house, and my dad was on the roof. He wasn't on the roof, he was on the ladder. I hadn't heard that name for a long time. And I walked up to the house to go up to the roof, and he was standing. He didn't see me walk up to the house. He saw my car was out there in the road, and he didn't know I was there, and I was standing right under him, and he goes, "Oh, look, Bono's here." And I hadn't heard that for so long. I was so grateful that he remembered it and said it again. That's my nickname.
I was the other lucky one that got a nickname. When I was 10, I started tending my cousin's little girl, and she could not say Leanne. So she would say Lan. And so I inherited that name, and Dad has always called me Lan since then. And I have some friends my Lake Pell friends still call me that too. But I don't know of very many times I remember Dad ever called me by my name. He always called me Lan. So quite recently I would go in and he would say, "Well, there you are. Are you lost?" He lovingly and tenderly still called me Lan, clear up until the very end.
We're going to talk about his mechanical talents now, and you know that he didn't buy anything new because he could always fix it better than new, and he taught us all to do that. These guys more than me, but I still learned enough. I recall many, many things. But when I was 14, we were planning to take a trip to New Mexico, and he always was working on having a nice paint job on every vehicle, and the Bolt and the Suburban matched, and it was just, you get the idea. I heard black car from Brian said, probably perfectly waxed. Anyway, so we got going, and how far did we get up the canyon? Barely upside for a canyon, and the fuel pump started acting up. So we turned around and thought, okay, we were going to Carrizozo, New Mexico, southern New Mexico. No way make it. So we went back home, and he and Grandpa got together and started working on it. They knew what the problem was, and so they tried something, and we took off the next day, and I said, "Dad, are you sure we should go? What if something happens?" And he said, "Don't worry, I'll get you there, and I'll get you back." So we got down in the middle of New Mexico, the fuel pump went out, and we were stopped on the side of the road, remember? We were stopped on the side of the road, and Dad and I climbed under. I don't know who else was under the car under the
Probably Kurt.
Huh?
Probably Kurt.
Kurt was. Anyway, so he said, "I'll fix it," and he moved the fuel pump from one end of the fuel tank to the other. He said, "That'll work. We'll push the fuel up to the engine." And we did. I was worried we were going to be stranded there, but he fixed it. Yeah.
When I turned 16, Dad came to me and he said, "I've got a little bit of money here for you." He said he kind of did the same thing with everybody. He said, "You can go buy you a car with this amount of money, or you can add to it." So I found me this cute little 1980 Honda Accord, and it cost $2,400. And he had given me $600, so I knew I needed to cover the difference. And he took me to the credit union, and we sat down with Sherm Huff. Many of you probably know Sherm. And he made a little loan for me, and I had a little monthly payment. And Dad told us we couldn't drive his and Mom's cars because they needed their cars to get them to and from work. That was really important for Dad to get to work, and if we had his vehicle, he couldn't do it. But he also felt that it was important for us to have our own way around. Kelly and I adopted the same idea when our kids started to drive, and we kind of always told them, we can't have you driving our cars, but we'll help you get a car.
Same thing with me. At about 15 years old, my dad gave me about $600, and I started looking for a car. And I had experienced, I'm kind of at the end, but I experienced all these guys painting, getting these cars. You'll hear that in a minute. But my dad knew how to do body work. He knew how to do it. He taught us how to do it. So I wasn't able to drive the car, so Kelly went over with me, with us, got this little Honda Civic hatchback, a little 3-door, and it needed some work, but I paid $1,200 for it. Got home, had a big patch on the side of the door that was just really rusty. And knowing that Dad knew body work like nobody else, one night after work, he got home and my car was in the backyard. I remember it was backyard on the patio, and he grabbed his grinder, sat down and just started grinding that rust spot off, just ground it off. And then he got out the Bondo and started bondoing that spot. It's pretty bad. There's a hole in the door. And then he started sanding it, smoothing it out, sanding it more. Pretty soon there was a line on the door that stopped at the rust spot and then finished over here. And he made that line match up perfectly with Bondo and sanding, and it just made it look perfect, and it was ready for paint. So that's what he taught me. And then he taught me to sand it, get ready, and put it in the garage, and he painted it like all these. You'll hear this, but that's my story. It's great that he was so good at art. He was an artist on the car.
I think between my junior and senior year of high school, he bought me a little 1966 Volkswagen Beetle from one of his friends for $150. And I was thrilled because I knew we were going to restore this car. And he taught me how to fill in the gaps and sand everything down. And the thing about sanding that car down is he did not use an electric sander. We used our hands. He said, you have to feel it, sand it and feel it. And I know my fingers bled every day. I didn't have any fingerprints left on my hands. And we got that car ready, and just like Craig said, we drove it into the garage and taped all the windows up, and we painted that little car silver, and put a little black pinstripe down each of the doors, and that was the most memorable summer I've ever had in my life. He was with me when we were doing the work, but he would teach me how to do it, and then he would let me do it. And if I had a question, then I'd just go and ask him. When we were all done, and I don't know if anybody noticed in any of our pictures, but he loved white wall tires. He always put the white walls out and taught us how to scrub those so that they just were gleaming white. And so we put the white wall tires on the outside, and put some little fake Porsche hubcaps on the car. It was just the best. And I worked at University Mall, and the first time I drove that car to work, and I parked it clear out at the end of the parking lot so nobody would park by me. But there was this man that followed me into the mall, into my job, and he offered me $2,000 for that car. And I don't know why I couldn't make it. I just was shocked. I didn't know what to do, so I called my dad, and I told him what had happened. He said, well, sell it. That's a lot of money. And I just started sobbing. And I thought, I can't sell this car. I worked so hard to get this car, and I love the car, and there's no way that I could sell that car.
So I don't know, Clark, if you're gonna talk about this, but I'm going to right now. Clark got a car, it was a 67 Mustang, and it did not need to be painted and it did not need to be fixed. But I liked it. Now I think now again. So when it came my turn, me and Dad went and found this beat up old 67 Mustang, it needed some engine work. Of course, that was right up for me and Dad to do that. We'd already been doing that for years. And I learned about him. So we bought that, we fixed it, we painted it twice in 1 week because we put an additive hardener in the paint and it came out with a rough texture. So we put it out in the sun for 3 days and sanded it back down and painted it again at the end of the week. But it's the black Mustang that's in the slideshow, and you can see that if you remember that, there's no some white walls on that. That back then in the 80s, it was raised white letters that we went with.
When the family picked me up from my mission, Kurt drove me home in that Mustang, and I thought, oh, I survived a 2-year mission. I'm probably going to die on the way home. Because Kurt's 16 years old, but it was fun. Remember that? Stuck in the back seat. Anyway, okay, I have a little different story about the vehicles. I'm pretty meticulous because I would never hire anybody to detail my vehicles. And I had one young man ask if he could do it, and I said no. He said, why? And I said, because you won't do it as good as I do it. And I thought about, his dad. Like, he would never pay anybody to do anything because they wouldn't do it as well as he does. And here I've turned into Dad because I won't let anybody do that. And the only person I let mow my lawn is Desiree. Once in a while. She has to ask about it though. But anyway, that's all from Dad. I remember when I was young, and you saw the pictures in the slideshows. On a Saturday, I would go with Dad, and we would drive down by the baseball parks, and we would park underneath the big cottonwood trees. I don't know if you remember those big cottonwood trees down there, and we would wax his truck.
Yeah, one of the things Dad taught us is to, always be working and supporting ourselves, learning how to support ourselves. So at a young age, he helped me get a paper out, and I think one of his friends was managing all the paper routes in the town for the Deseret News. So he helped me get a paper out, and my paper, we live just down here on, a few blocks, and my papers would be delivered down where Spanish Fork Building Supply is, about a mile away. And so I would do that route for a long time, but the Deseret News was a Sunday morning paper early. And every Sunday morning, Dad was up with me on that route. He wouldn't let me go do that early morning route, clear the other side of town by myself. And so he was always there with me, rain or shine, and those were some good times. And later on, I think just about all of us standing here ended up delivering newspapers at one point in our lives or another.
I did it.
It's just we were sick.
She was my sod.
I just second the Sunday thing, because he was always helping me on Sunday. I dreaded Saturday nights, because, oh no, Sunday's coming the next day. Dad was always there to make me feel better. He always helped with my paper out. But the later years, again, for me, the last 10 years probably, I had many opportunities to go up to the house and eat lunch, or I'd run up after a class I would do and not really look for breakfast. Sometimes Mom would make me breakfast, but I would walk in the house, and my dad would always say, "Oh, so you're not working today?" And I think he just wanted us to work all the time. And the playtime was really Lake Powell, and that's it. So all the rest of the year, it's work, work, work. So he always asked me that up till he just recently. So you're not working today, or you're already done for the day, or you just don't have anything to do today. So that was one of the memories I thought was kind of fun. You're not working today?
We know that Dad always loved serving his neighbors. He would fix Joanne Thompson's lawnmower every year, and he would snowblow the snow around the entire block. He loved Bob Cassingham. He had a beautiful yard, still has a beautiful yard, and Dad would always comment on all the work that he puts into that beautiful yard. His buddy Scott Davis, he was always chatting with him, and Shane next door. He loved Mike and Cheryl and all of the Hill family. They were all so good to him. And he loved Jared and Rochelle and Ross on the other side of the house. He always told us what great neighbors we were to him. And we found great comfort knowing Dad had people he could count on when he needed help too. And we know that you're now watching over our mom too.
So we've always had great support from our parents in anything we did. And one of the biggest ones for me that stands out was, I was getting past the age of 19 and just kind of in limbo. And I had this influential bishop that helped me decide I should go on a mission. Thanks, Leonard. So I secretly, so I thought, and I'm pretty secret, I decided I'm going to do this without telling them. And I knew I was going to need their financial support to do this mission, but I didn't tell them, and I started doing all these weird things. They started noticing and getting ready to go. And we had a mailman in the ward, and I called him and said, my mission call's coming, intercept it at the post office so it doesn't get delivered at home. And he did. He called me one day to tell me, and I was like, why is Alan calling you? Oh, I don't know, it made something up. So they're starting to get suspicious. So I went down and got it, and eventually made my way home and be with that mission call. And they really didn't know about it, even though they were getting suspicious. And Dad said to me, you get yourself there, I can keep you there. And he did. And to complicate it, the next year Kelly went out on his mission, and we were both out at the same time for about a year. And I think Dad had plenty of opportunities for overtime that he didn't always have. And, just worked his guts out like he always did to support us, because he knew that was important too.
We do have to add that he also snuck home as well. He was at the airport when we got there.
So I think we should keep the next few a little shorter, because we've been up here a while. I don't want you guys to get too bored. Say what you need to say. I'm going to shorten this one a lot. So I used to go with Dad down to the service station, and it was down at the service station that Stuart White owned, and no, he still does. But he loved going down to the service station. Back then it was service. They would check the oil, pump the gas for you. They would even wash the windshield. The good old service station. And I just remember this going down there, but he would do all that himself. He would just go down and use their tools and their station. And I just remember being there with him and going inside the store, and they had a Coke machine. And this puts me way back, 10 cents. You put in 10 cents and you slide the little bottle around the track, out. And that was a great memory for me.
All right, well, this can be short, but I spent a lot of time with Dad in my early years with fixing stuff with him, because I showed a great interest in these mechanical things that were always broken. But he taught us about the auto parts store too. You've heard that already today, but the best auto parts store we learned about were wrecking yards, where you could go out, find the car you're working on, see if it had the part you needed to take it off and buy it really cheap. And that was a big thing that several of us stand up here, we still do that frequently.
Wrecking yard?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of them that we used to hit.
Just on Wednesday, we were there. Of course, when I was young, I just kind of stayed in the shadows, because Kurt was the one that was always involved in fixing things, but I paid attention. And one day I got into fixing cars and for my kids and whoever else. And Dad come over because I was struggling with one. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't running right. He came over and we were leaning over the hood of the car. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, you're a better mechanic than I ever was." I said, "Whoa, Dad, wait." I said, "You fix your car with a book." I said, "We'll just go in and get on the computer, go on the forums, get on YouTube." And he looked at me and went, "What's YouTube?" So I showed him. And then a little while later, Leanne called and said she had talked to Dad about some of these things, and he started referring to it as the YouTube. We're going to get on the YouTube.
I bought a lawnmower about 25 years ago. I still have that lawnmower. And I don't have to say anymore. But I have to thank Lorraine for having 2 broken down lawnmowers, because I went over there because they always ended up at Dad's house and they were on the patio, and I'm like, my transmission doesn't work very good. Can I borrow that? So he gave me that transmission, so I fixed it. Then just this year, my back tires, the gears didn't work anymore, and Lorraine had another lawnmower that is in the backyard. I said, "Dad, I'll take that to the junkyard as long as you give me those wheels." So I was able to preserve my lawnmower. It's 25 years old, and it's still running today.
I'll go next if you want.
Oh, vacation.
Yeah.
So Dad took us on vacation every year. It was really important to him. And I did not understand how hard that really was till I had kids of my own. I thought, those vacations were only vacations for us, because my parents, they worked the whole time they were there. But we never stayed in a hotel or a motel. We always stayed in our little camping trailer, where we pitched a tent. When I was younger, we never ate out. Our mother fixed all of our meals, feeding, camping, wherever we were. Clark talked about the trip to New Mexico. 6 kids in a big old green Suburban that broke down about every 50 miles. And that little camping trailer pulling behind it. I think my dad, I can't remember if it was Merle Haggard or Charlie Pride that we listened to the whole way there and back, the same cassette tape.
Charlie Pride. I memorized every word of it. But it was good. Dad made a mistake one time of telling me what he used to do when he was in high school, such as late at night. He didn't have a motorcycle then, but he and his friends would drive down the opposite side of Main Street when most of the cars were gone. And so it was pretty light. Have you heard this? You drive on the other side. So I felt like I could do anything I wanted after that. He wouldn't get mad at me because he did. So Gerald and I had these motorcycles, and we thought we were pretty cool because we take the baffles out, and they were really loud. And I could hear him starting up his motorcycle from his house. It was a mile and a half away. Anyway, so we had these loud motorcycles. One winter, it didn't snow in Spanish Fork while I was in high school, and I drove the motorcycle to work. But I finished work with Dawn. I was there, and it was cold when I got done, and I got on the motorcycle, and I just took off. I was cold, and I went up Center Street. I was going fast. I turned on 9th East. I burned right through that stop sign where the church was. There's not a stop sign now. I went right through that stop sign, and within 4 seconds I was home. And I pulled in the driveway, and the cop car was right there, right on me with all the lights. And I thought, oh, okay. A little speeding there. So anyway, I go in the house, and Dad's sitting in there. I thought he was either going to be easy on me or really hard on me. And I walked in and I said, you saw the lights in the window. He goes, yeah, what happened? I said, I just broke the speed limit all the way home and ran a stop sign. He said, don't do that again.
I'm going to go back a little bit. Ryan, thanks for that tribute. In there you mentioned Bryce Canyon, and that was a favorite place of all of ours. Even to the extent when we started having kids, we would go down when Mom and Dad were doing the Fiddlers, and we would camp at Bryce Canyon. And then it turned, prior to that, obviously, it was mentioned, when we got the boat, it became Lake Powell every summer. Well, Dad would schedule a week every year, not for him to do anything, but for us, to take us to Lake Powell, or Bryce Canyon at the time. Dad hasn't been to Lake Powell for 37 years. That was our last trip with all of us. I was lucky enough that my wife's family kept going to Lake Powell. And I took a lot of Mom and Dad's stuff that we used that they had created, and went from improvising with rocks to making this canopy that will stand up in the wind with walls that moved in shade and everything. Well, I used that, and one time the wind took it into the water and took Skylar with it, I think, and I broke one of the elbows. And so when I brought it home, I told Mom, I said, I'm going to go get the parts to fix this and extras to make me one. So we made one, which kept us going. Oh, what was it, 10, 12 years ago, Leanne called and said, I want to take my kids to Lake Powell. I said, okay. Knowing that Dad never liked going alone, so the more we had in our caravan or whatever, more boats on the water, made him comfortable. Dad said to me once when we got to the point where we were out on the lake and he was on the shore, that he worried the whole time he was there. We were out on the boat. And I said, what do you have to worry about? And he's like, because if something happened, I couldn't get you. I couldn't get to you. So Leanne started going with us, her family. And along the way, we had modified the canopy just slightly, different things. And for many years, I asked Dad if he wanted to go. I think Leanne asked him more. And he would always decline. He didn't ever want to go. Mom always wanted to go. And so when I'm remembering 75 years old, something like that, we got you down there. Quite eventful. It was probably one of the few flash floods that we had seen. But Dad always taught us, you take care of your boat, the stuff on shore you can deal with. You just can't get home if your boat's gone. So we all learned that. He taught us how to watch the horizon, look for the clouds and the weather that's coming so we could be prepared. The neatest part, though, is when Leanne started going, they needed a boat. Well, Dad had a boat. And so that little boat started going to Lake Powell. And we would launch the boats and we'd leave them down there on the dock, and me and Kelly would take our trucks up to park. It's forever now with the water level. But by the time we got down there, you would think a celebrity was in that boat, because people would just stop and look at Dad's boat and want to know what it was, how old it was, things like that. The neatest thing was when they started it, and his dad built this boat. We watched him. Kurt helped, and we all watched him do that. So anyway, those were some really good memories for us, and we just wanted Dad to see that we continued his legacy, and that was up until last year. We don't know if we'll make it back, and that's a whole other story. So
I'm going to be really fast. The last few months, we started to notice Dad's brain starting to change, and his confusion got more noticeable. But it wasn't until only the last 3 weeks that it really hit us the hardest. He would always say, something's wrong. It was like he knew something was wrong. I think we all wanted it to be something else, something the doctors could fix. But he was healthy like an 18-year-old. And the doctor said, Darnell, you might live to be 100.
So we kind of had hope that we had more time. Back in about April or May, one day while I was at work, I was in a meeting and he called me and he said, "Lan, this is Dad." He said, "I have a problem." I said, "What's your problem, Dad?" Because we got that call a lot. He said, "Well, me and Mom have decided to get divorced." And I laughed and I said, "Oh, well, what made you decide to do that?" I mean, he is 92, so what would he be thinking? And he just said, "Well, because we can't live together anymore." And I said, "I'll come up after work and we can talk about it." And he said, "Well, I thought you were going to say that." So I went up and I met, Kelly and I met there, and we tried to help Dad figure out his problem. And often in his little parts of confusion, he had moments of clarity when he would tell us how much he loves our mom. And we've always known that. We've heard the stories that he always loved her, and we have felt that. So even in his confusion, that was clear to him.
Dad got a 1962 Cadillac, had pointed fenders at the back of the tail fins, that's what they're called. And he brought it home when I was about 5. But anyway, they had that car up until, we were in high school, and I got the privilege of driving that car to school one day. And I drove to school one day, and then I went to ball practice after, and one of my friends brought me home, and I just forgot about the car. My dad came in and woke me up about midnight when he got home from his swing shift, and he said, "Where's the car?" And I said, "Well, I don't know where it is." And then I woke up a little bit more, and I said, "Oh, I left it in the parking lot of the high school." So I went with him down to get it. There it was, the only car in the parking lot at midnight, and I drove it home. And I never heard an unkind. He didn't chastise me. He didn't tell me. It was just, let's go get the car, and we got the car back, and everything was fine.
We appreciate that. We had lots of freedom, but I think we all wanted to honor our parents by not messing up too much. I'm getting a little serious now at the end, in watching Dad get older. Somebody said he didn't accept old age gracefully, because he was still snow blowing the whole neighborhood within a couple of years ago. He had 2 snow blowers, and he got a little frustrated that he couldn't fix them all the time. But anyway, he was getting older. We've been talking a lot. Hard to watch, but it's part of the circle of life. And now we just have the best memories. We try to read this about getting old, and we watch this. Just a line to say I'm living, that I'm not among the dead, though I'm getting more forgetful and mixed up in my head. For sometimes I can't remember when I stand at the foot of the stairs, if I must go up for something, or if I just came down from there. And before the fridge so often, my poor mind is filled with doubt, have I just put food away, or have I come to take it out? And there's time when it's dark with my nightcap on my head, not knowing if I'm retiring or just getting out of bed. So if it's my turn to write you, there's no need in getting sore. I may think I have written and don't want to be a bore. So remember, I do love you and wish that you were near. And now it's nearly mail time, so I must say goodbye, dear. And there I stood by the mailbox with a face so red. Instead of mailing you my letter, I had opened it instead.
I'll be quick. I have a poem as well. Dad loved music. He loved his country music, Merle Haggard, but he did love bluegrass music. He loved that mandolin picking, and he loved Alison Krauss. And I have a poem about her, I think is one of his favorite songs from her, because just recently he sat there and told me that he met her, he put his arm around her, he knew her before she was a big thing. And he was very proud of that. And then he said, she's no longer here, or something like that. He was confusing it, but this is a song that I think he really loved from Allison Krauss. Babe, and also it kind of goes along with some parts are my mom's thinking, I think, and some of it's my dad's thinking. Baby, now that I found you, I won't let you go. I built my world around you. I need you so. Baby, even though you don't need me now. Baby, now that I found you, I won't let you go. I built my world around you. I need you so. You don't need me. You don't need me. No. Baby, when first we met, I knew in this heart of mine that you were someone I couldn't forget. I said, right, and abide my time. Spent my life looking for that somebody to make me feel like you. Now you tell me that you want to leave me, but darling, I just can't let you. Baby, now that I found you, I won't let you go. I built my world around you. I need you so. Baby, even though you don't need me, you don't need me now.
Nine years ago, I lost my third son to suicide. We had a hard time deciding on where to bury him. I didn't want it to be Santa Quinn or Salem, and it just made sense for it to be Spanish Fork. So I knew Mom and Dad hadn't purchased burial plots yet, and I knew that Dad always wanted to take care of that and have that done. So I came to him one morning and I told him I wanted Peyton buried in Spanish Fork and that we should go buy plots together. And he loved that idea, and we went right down right then, and we did that. And it turned out that Lorraine and Craig also bought plots that day. I love knowing that Dad has checked on Peyton there every day as he took his usual routine drive through Spanish Fork. And I love knowing they will be there together. The mortuary let us visit Peyton prior to the funeral. And I remember Dad sitting in the front seat of their car when they pulled into the mortuary. He was not going in. He told me he couldn't go in. And I'm sure he was scared. I was scared. But I said to him, if I have to go in there, you have to come with me. And we walked in together. He reluctantly stood in the back of the room, but then made his way next to Peyton's side. As he stood next to Peyton, he gently touched his hand and said, I'll see you soon, Peyton. And the very last thing I said to him just last week was, please go find Peyton now and take care of him. Almost 2 years after this, Lorraine lost her son too. She and I have talked a lot about what we think these boys are doing now with their grandpa, and we hope they're all taking care of each other. They must have had a great reunion last week. I'm a little jealous. Though we say goodbye for now, heaven promises a reunion where love never ends and joy never fades. We hope that you've been able to know our dad a little better, and that in some small way he may have impacted your life as he has ours. We are who we are because of him, and we are proud that he is our dad.
This has been a wonderful service. The musical number and the tribute were just great. I'd like to thank everybody that has participated. We will now sing hymn number 152, God Be With Us Till We Meet Again. Our benediction will be offered by Kelly Hancock, and then I'll have some further instruction.
Father in heaven, humbly and gratefully we bow our heads at the conclusion of these services. Grateful for the opportunity to hear more about Dad Darnell's life and the influence he has had on many. We pray that thou will welcome him and that thou will watch over the rest of us that still have a journey remaining here on earth. Pray that thou will watch over us today, that we might enjoy each other's company and share stories and reflect on Dad. And may we do the procession safely and all will go well there. And we humbly pray for this and thank thee in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
We will now proceed to the Spanish Fork Cemetery for the interment and dedication of the grave by Clark Hancock. I would like to invite the family to come back immediately after the cemetery and enjoy a luncheon provided by the Mount Nebo Ward Relief Society. Our pallbearers today are Clark Hancock, Kirk Hancock, Kelly Hancock, Craig Hancock, Kelly Wood, and Greg Allen. And our honorary pallbearers are Wes Hancock, Hayden Hancock, Brandon Hancock, Skylar Hancock, Jackson Hancock, Jordan Wood, Bryson Wood, Dallin Wood, Lannon Wood, and Carter Moffett. Would you please stand and the pallbearers come forward? And I'd like to thank everybody for being here.